Hi everyone, it's Sarah Todd. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking all about the physical and occupational therapy that I have received all throughout my disability journey, what the difference is between physical and occupational therapy, how they helped me, how these services could be improved in some ways, just my general opinions on the services, and I'll just be kind of talking about physical and occupational therapy in general. So if you're interested in that, please keep on watching. So for those of you who don't know, I became disabled when I was 8 years old in 2010. I am now 19 years old, and I was diagnosed with acute flaccid myelitis, or AFM, which is caused by a virus attacking the spinal cord. And in 2010, AFM originally left me paralyzed from the neck down. I literally couldn't even move a single toe, but I have since recovered a lot, and I now can walk, and I'm even back to dancing again, which I loved to do before this all happened to me. And I also have paralysis in areas of my arms and hands. So I can't move my left hand, my right hand is very weak, I can't really lift my shoulders up, I just can't move certain areas of my arms and hands. So that is how AFM affects me. And of course, in order to get to this point where I recovered a lot, I had to do a lot of physical and occupational therapy. So I was in the hospital for 2 months when this all happened to me in April of 2010. This happened on April 19th, 2010. I was admitted to the hospital the next day, and I stayed until June 9th, 2010. So I was there for a long time, and for the first 2 weeks of my stay, I was in the intensive care unit, and I started having a little bit of physical and occupational therapy, but at that point I was just kind of lying in bed. I wasn't really able to do much, so the therapist would come in and just kind of try to get me sitting up and eventually get me into the wheelchair so I could go around the hospital, things like that, but nothing really too extreme because it was the very early days of my disability experience. But as I said, when I was in the ICU, this was when I was first exposed to physical and occupational therapy. And I remember my mom actually asking the therapist what the difference is between physical and occupational therapy. And I've come to learn that physical therapists kind of focus more on the body as a whole, and they are really into like helping you get back walking again, those kinds of things. And occupational therapists seem to be a little bit better at focusing on the arms and hands. And they also are really focused on finding ways for you to do things on your own. So my occupational therapist often helped me find ways to be independent, like figure out how to put on my t-shirt, figure out how to feed myself, things like that. So that's kind of the main differences between physical and occupational therapy there. But that is a very simple definition of each job. They both entail much more than that. So I did a little bit of therapy in the ICU, but not too much. And after those 2 weeks in the ICU, I was moved to an inpatient rehab floor of the hospital, and I stayed there for 7 weeks. While I was there, I basically just focused on doing therapy. I had a schedule every day where I would wake up and do physical and occupational therapy basically all day, and I would have the weekends free. So it was kind of like school days, but with physical and occupational therapy. And therapy was really difficult at first. I absolutely hated it because it really hurt my body to get up and get moving. I remember when I had occupational therapy for the first time, I was with my OT and she was trying to get my arms moving, and there were like these scooter things. It had like a cushion on the bottom and then straps on the top, and then it helped your arm glide across a table, like you could do exercises that way because there were wheels on the little scooter. And that was so painful for me because I hadn't been moving my body, and just any movement was really difficult to do. But eventually doing movements like that really helped me. It was good to get my body moving. It was just very difficult. And for physical therapy, They were really trying to get me walking again. Once I started getting a little bit of movement back in my legs, I started using a manual wheelchair, and I couldn't push it with my arms, so I pushed it with my legs, which actually helped my legs get stronger. So that was a really good way for me to gain my leg strength back. And then eventually I was able to start walking with assistance, and they have these gait belt things that they can wrap around your body, and then your therapist can hold the belt so they can make sure you don't fall. And we would walk around the hospital and walk on different surfaces, practice balancing, doing things like that. And they also had this really fun and really big bike, and I rode that around the hospital floor. And I even raced my doctor once in a bike race, which was really fun. I loved that. And that helped me gain strength back. We would also do fun things like we would play Wii games. So in OT, they would help me move my arms to do the movements, or for PT, we would do dances to try to just get us moving. So that was a good way to help me gain my strength back. But therapy was very hard in the hospital. I was 8 years old. I didn't want to be doing physical and occupational therapy. It was not my thing, obviously, since I was just a little kid. But I remember one day waiting for the elevator to go back up to my room with my mom, and I said, I realized that in order to get better, you have to do things that you can't do so you can do them again. And so what I was basically saying was they tried to help me gain arm movement back by helping me move my arms. So essentially, I was kind of moving my arms, but not really, because they were helping me. So I was saying that I had to try to do things that I couldn't do in order to be able to do them again. And I kept doing that for a long time. After I got out of the hospital, I did day rehab therapy. So I was living at home, but I would go to a therapy place every day, and I did this for about a month and a half, and I did therapy there all day. So I had physical therapy, occupational therapy all day. It was like the length of a school day. It was exhausting, but that helped me regain a little bit of my arm movement and some leg strength. And then after I did day rehab, I began going to outpatient therapy for about 3 hours every day. So I would do some PT and OT, and I did that for about a year. And then I started having some therapists that I met come to my house, and I did therapy with them that way. I met a lot of PTs and OTs that I really loved at the hospital and at other places, and I did therapy at home, which was just easier because I saved time, and it was nice because I was in an environment that I was familiar with. So I really loved doing home therapy. And this was also a great way for me to focus on trying to be more independent, because when I was at home, I really wanted them to help me find ways for me to do things. So I had a therapist help me rebuild my whole bathroom so that I could take a shower by myself. We did that about 4 years ago now, and that was incredible. I have a video showing my adaptive bathroom. I will link that up at the top for you all so you can watch that if you're interested. It's so cool. I love my bathroom so much. I had my therapist help me learn how to put on a shirt to get dressed, help me learn how to open some things, just how to be independent in general, and that really helped me. So I've been doing home therapy for a really long time. I occasionally will still have some therapists come over, but it's mostly just to massage like my neck and shoulders, because those areas get really sore because I use muscles in an unusual way, because I have some weak muscles, and so my muscles just get sore. So that's basically what I do for therapy now. But I did also used to go all the way up to Baltimore and go to a place there for therapy, and my mom and I would stay for 2 weeks at a time, and I would do therapy all day every day for those 2 weeks except for the weekends. And that was exhausting, but I made a lot of good connections there with the therapists, and they really have a great center up at that place, so that was really good. And yeah, so physical and occupational therapy have been a big part of my life for the past 11 years. And I think therapists, they really need more appreciation. Like, physical and occupational therapists do so much for us. They really do care about us. They just want to help us be as independent as possible, and I really love that. And I'm so thankful for them and the connections that I've made with them. But one thing that I do dislike about some aspects of therapy is that I think sometimes, just depending on the therapist, who the person is, or the center that they work at, like what the center chooses to focus on, therapy can be a little bit too recovery focused and not enough independence focused. So recovery can be important. It is important to work on trying to regain leg strength or regain arm strength if you think there is hope for that. But in the meantime, it is important to also focus on being independent, because if you're solely focusing on recovery, then you're not going to be able to live independently while you're trying to work on that recovery. Like, you kind of need to do a little bit of both. So I do wish some centers would focus on both aspects instead of just choosing to focus on recovery, because the independence aspect of therapy is so important. And that was one of the things that was most important to me. Even as a 9-year-old child, when I started doing therapy, I remember feeling like I don't really care about trying to get better at this point. Like, I've kind of just like lived this way for the past few months now, and I want to learn how to do things for myself. So I was already feeling that at 9 years old, just a few months into my disability journey. So I think that independence needs to be a larger focus of therapy. And I really hope that that can become a little bit more accepted, because it's so necessary. We disabled people deserve to be able to live as independently as possible. And we often need our therapists to give us ideas for how to do that. We can be our own innovators for sure. Like, I have thought of so many ways to be independent on my own. Like, I've thought of so many things, but my therapists have also helped me think of things. And it's nice to just have people who have that experience in this field who can give us some ideas and help us learn how to be independent. So that just is one of my main criticisms of the physical and occupational therapy fields. I do think that independence needs to be a bigger focus because it's so important. And it also can really just give hope to disabled people that are going through therapy, because if your therapist is teaching you ways to be independent, it will change how you perceive your own value and worth. Independence comes with self-worth. It can be more difficult to feel as worthy if you are dependent on people, because there can be trouble with feeling like a burden for needing help. And it's not always easy to be dependent on people, especially if you don't have people in your life who can help you with things or who are willing to help you with things. So independence is so crucial. I can't emphasize that enough. So for all my future PTs and OTs out there, or current PTs and OTs out there, I really hope that you found this video interesting and helpful. I think it's really important to focus on independence, and I hope that you all are doing that or will do that for your patients in the future, because I can speak from personal experience, just knowing how much of a difference having OTs and PTs who cared about my independence made for me. This made such a difference for me for a lot of reasons, because I'm much more independent now because of them. But also, if you think about it, if you're only stressing recovery, how is that going to make your patient feel? It might make them feel as if being disabled is inherently a bad thing, which it isn't. Or it might make them just feel inadequate in their own body, and that can cause some insecurities. So we want to avoid that, and we want to create an accepting and loving environment with PT and OT. Anyways, this was kind of a long, rambly video, but yeah, that is just kind of an overview of my experience with physical and occupational therapy and my opinions on both fields. I really hope that you all found this interesting, and if you did, please give this video a like, leave me a comment, hit that subscribe button, and remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss a video of mine. Also, be sure to follow my social media. The links are in the description box below. And remember, I post new videos every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern and sometimes Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern. And I hope to see you at the next one. Bye, everyone.